morning, everyone. My task today is really to share with you some perspectives about HighQ's experience working with Deakin University. But first of all, some information about HighQ in terms of giving some context to that collaboration. So HighQ started back in 2005. At that time, we were a small spin-off from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. Over the years, we've grown significantly. We're now more than 70 people around the world, located in 10 countries. In contrast, HighQ Australia is a much earlier stage business. We're actually founded back in 2014, and we're co-located here on campus at Deakin University. And we're literally 300 metres up the hill at the Manufutures building that Deakin has built here on campus. HighQ Australia, in terms of our activity, we're still quite a small footprint. We're literally 2 people within the business here. But within our collaboration, we work with more than 10 researchers throughout Deakin. So in terms of our activity, a lot of that is focused very much on new technology and new ideas and how we test them for the business overall. In terms of what we do as a business, a lot of it comes down to providing or helping textile brands to differentiate through innovation. And for our business, that really breaks out into 2 key areas of activity. The first is to come up with new technologies that make a difference in terms of how people use textiles. And the second is providing communication tools so that the value of that technology is made clear to a consumer in terms of how they can interact with it. So at the end of the day, what that means in terms of what we actually bring to market, we provide functional treatments for textiles that help to improve the properties of what the fabric or the textile is doing. So these are treatments that help to improve aspects like comfort or performance. So if we think of particular textiles, for example, in sports, outdoor, workwear, carpets, you name it, there's textiles literally surrounding us at all stages of our lives. Our treatments help to improve the properties. So things like water repellency, like this hiking jacket you can see there, or footwear, where you need to make a water repellency treatment. Running clothes, where you need to help athletes perform better by keeping them cool. Helping shirts to not smell. So each of these treatments are given additional value to the textile. That's very much the profile of our business. So we're inherently a business-to-business organisation. A lot of what we provide as technology is not immediately visible to the consumer. But to give you a sense of some of the sectors we address, our treatments have been used on sailors' clothes in the America's Cup races. If you look at running clothing that's being worn in competitive races, our treatments are often used on those types of apparel. And to give you some examples of brands or the profiles of our customers, companies like Skins here in Australia, or an international example like Burton in the outdoor skiing space. So in terms of our collaboration with Deakin, I think it's helpful to understand the context about how all of that started. And to understand that, it's useful, I think, to understand my journey a little bit. Now, I grew up in Newcastle, New South Wales, in many ways the New South Wales twin city of Geelong. I studied at Newcastle University as a chemical engineer, and from my undergraduate days, I actually went to the US to study my PhD topic at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And that's really where I first got exposed to this idea about research, seeding companies, working collaboratively, and just kicking around ideas dynamically. That really planted a very early stage of how I've come to view research and collaboration. From the US, I then went to Switzerland as a postdoctoral researcher at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. And while making some research on new materials, I took a break with some friends and went on a multi-day hike in the Swiss Alps. And after a few days hiking, we had smelly clothes and literally had a conversation about, well, surely science can solve this problem. And believe it or not, we started a company around that idea and then ended up building up multiple technologies in the textile space over that time. So I ended up living in Switzerland for nearly 10 years. I built up the technology and operational side of HighQ. And then in 2013, my wife and I decided to relocate to Geelong. My wife is a Geelong girl, and we decided to bring our children up here in Geelong around family. And the second reason was to be closer to Cardinia Park so we could actually see the cats play live. So 2013, we moved back to Australia. I redefined my role to focus more on long-term technology planning for the business, working remotely, a lot of late-night phone calls. And the second part of that was to think about longer-term technology platforms for the business. And at this point in 2013, I became aware of an innovation expo that was being held by Deakin here in Geelong at the waterfront. So I thought I'd wander down, have a look at the expo, see what Deakin's doing. So I'm sitting there in the audience, sort of following with interest all the different topics that are being worked on. And there was one slide at the back end of a talk where it was a very simple graphic, and it was presented in the spirit of this is something new that we've been working on. And I looked at that slide, I saw the material they were looking to make, and I'd been trying to think of a way to make that material, but I hadn't yet found a way to scale that up so it could become industrially relevant. But I could tell immediately from that slide that they found a way to do it. So with that one slide, I recognised an opportunity. I then went to the researchers with great interest, and Alessandra Suti in the audience, who I spoke to immediately. And straight away I could tell that we were aligned in terms of what these materials could potentially do, and realised that they had something interesting to work on. So this conversation then led to an understanding that there's a basis here for us to work. The next step was a very small-scale, rapid pilot project. This really had two functions for us. The first was, does this idea really have merit? Is it something that we should look into and invest into further? The second part was, can we work together? And those two aspects are very important in a very early stage interaction. That was a successful pilot project, and that subsequently led to a much broader engagement with Deakin University around this technology platform that we refer to as short polymer fibres. And from the point of view of HiQ, this platform is a way to make multiple materials that are essentially unique ingredients to functionalise surfaces. So from the point of view of HiQ looking to differentiate through innovation, this gives us a platform to launch multiple products through to market. And that's certainly been the case since the collaboration started in 2014. So this collaboration's now led to multiple products that we've brought through to the global market in textiles. It's led to a world-first scale-up facility, which is located here on campus at Deakin, up the hill. And this has become a platform for a much deeper engagement with Deakin on multiple topics. So another aspect of how HiQ interacts with Deakin is that we've been made very welcome, literally, to live here on campus. And we're co-located here, and we're part of this very dynamic environment around new ideas. One aspect to that is that one of the first people that I met when I moved back to Australia was actually Professor Venkatesh. And we started catching up for coffees, literally, because, well, we realised we both started companies and like talking about new ideas and interesting things. So we'd meet over coffee and just talk about stuff. We started just chatting about difficult problems and ideas, and no particular set thing about, well, this is going to become a collaboration. It was just interesting. But over time, we started to think about how data could potentially be used in experimentation. And of course, experimentation is how you test an idea in terms of a chemical or a physical system. So over time, this led also to a broader collaboration with the Prada group here at Deakin around how some of these machine learning and artificial intelligence tools can be applied to the experimental space. So for HiQ, what this means is that we now have a different way to think about how you can rapidly develop products and bring new processes to live application. And this is an ongoing, very dynamic collaboration which crosses also our interaction with the Institute for Frontier Materials here at Deakin and allows us to accelerate how we bring new products to market. We also have a broader set of collaborations at Deakin that have grown over the years. So, for example, we work with the engineering school around principles of design. We use their rapid prototyping facilities for a number of different articles that we do. We work with the sports science school around exercise and how sports clothing can improve performance and so on. We also work with the business school, and we also have engagement with the student body here. And interns we've had working with HiQ basically continuously since we started engaging with Deakin. So every semester we've had an intern working with HiQ. They benefit in terms of experience, and we benefit from their fresh perspective and energy on new problems. So overall, we have multiple strands of collaboration that we've had with Deakin over the years. And to bring that back into the business context about why we seek this type of collaboration, a lot of it comes back to how we view innovation. And for HighQ, we're always looking to push the boundaries of what's possible on textiles. And so that fundamentally motivates us. But at the end of the day, it's how do you assess a new idea and see if it's worth investing more time and energy into and money? Will it lead to a product which has a benefit? So a lot of this spins around how you take the risk out of a new idea. So how do you seed an idea and how do you test the merit of it? And our interest is to find a way to do that as quickly as possible, as cost effectively as possible, and nimbly, so that if an idea is not doing what you thought it would do, then move to something which has more merit and more potential. And that's the type of value that we see in a collaboration like this. Additional advantages include access to experts in very specialised topic areas. So working with researchers, they're very much a resource about seeing other things from a different perspective. The other aspect is access to very specialised facilities and infrastructure that, as a business, we would have no hope to finance that ourselves in the level of intensity that you find at a university like this. The other aspect of all of this is this idea of a fresh perspective and a different view of how to solve problems. And this is actually the most critical component of a very fruitful collaboration. Because if you bring different perspectives and exposure to ideas that you have in your different backgrounds, you can solve problems together as partners if you have an open dialogue and an effective communication about what's motivating you, what different ideas you can bring to the table. So a lot of it is sharing know-how, experience, and also context. And this is important because oftentimes the very first idea that you might have about what motivates that conversation, once you start talking about it and understanding the different facets of how to do it, it's actually the subsequent ideas that end up having oftentimes more value. And that's, in our view, the real value of a powerful collaboration. Because the more you understand each other's worlds and the more you talk about it, the more you can successfully solve problems moving into the future. And that's certainly the situation that we found here at Deakin. So to finalise, I'd really like to thank the Chamber for providing this forum. I'd especially like to thank Deakin for providing such a welcoming environment for HighQ here and the excellent collaboration we've had over the years. I think a large part of the success that we've seen with this environment at Deakin is the welcoming nature of viewing collaboration with business and industry. And I think, Professor Den Hollander, your vision about seeing Deakin as a catalyst for change and an originating point for new industry is laudable. And thank you for the home you've given us here on campus. I'd also like to acknowledge the Australian Research Council for funding a lot of the research activity and the researchers here at Deakin, so in particular the Future Fibre Hub. And I'd also like to acknowledge AusIndustry for the support that they provided with our scale-up facility here at the ManuFutures building. So with that, I'd like to thank you and also encourage you to speak with Deakin and open these conversations and just start talking about ideas. And I wish you all well for your collaborations.